the next speaker is Ashiq Khan. Ashiq.
Yeah.
Okay, he's here. So, the floor is to you. We hear you, and do you have a slide to show?
Can you see my slides?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
So the talk will be.
Yes, you have to share the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yes,
Can you see it?
But not yet in presentation mode, but we see the slides. I can just launch the presentation.
You can't see it so far?
Yeah, no, we saw the screen and we saw the slide, but was not in the presentation mode. We just see the.
So you have to share the screen, or I have to click on the share the screen?
Yeah, we hear you and we saw the screen.
Okay.
Okay, now we see the screen.
You can see the screen, okay.
We see
okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This presentation, though of 10 minutes, is just based on a workshop we had in Gilgit, and where we invited many people just to share the experiences about the mountain problems, especially in the context of the climate change. But most of these are also based on my personal experiences in the mountains, which are spread between 3 to 4 decades. Well, if we go to the issues, number one to me is the reduction in the natural capacities of the mountain ecosystem these days. And we have a very clear example of this in the Gilgit areas in the upper Hunza. And we have a pasture in the subalpine area, which is 35 square kilometer in size. And that pasture, it used to get a glacier melt to irrigate the pasture. And now the glaciers have receded back, and the pastures do not get any of the glacier melt for the last 30 years. And what happened, that the Salix dominant vegetation of that area turned to juniper dominant vegetation. And now this has the capacity lesser than 50% even. So in the context of the livestock, which people used to take there, now they can't take more than 50% of the number which they used to take. And there's a very clear example one can see in the context of the climate change in that area. And there are so many others, but this is one which is accessible as well. And people have really a solution for that, but we can talk about that. The second thing is that what I have noticed in the as a casual visitor to that area for the last 30, 40 years, that now I can see a clear change in the attitudes of the people. For some reason, they get irritated very soon and they flare up. I don't know what happened, whether that is connected to economic things that again were damaged because of the climate things, but I can see a very clear change in their attitudes. They were not like that 20, 30 years ago. And now perhaps the things are not that positive. Then the third, there are more economic damages and seasonal losses of crops, again, due to storms and flash floods and erratic rains. In one of the mountains in the Himalaya, what I observed there was that the people who had trees around the crops, they were a little bit compensated buy those trees by selling them to compensate for the losses of the crops. Otherwise, most of them, they were damaged. Then there were lands which was very good for the bean growing, and now there is no land. That was all washed away. Then again, if you go to another one is the infestation of fruits and crops. Maize or the corn production has been very famous in that area. And now the maize crops, they're damaged by a stalk borer. And this stalk borer was not known 10 years before even. And now that stalk borer, they take away the whole crop. And now the maize crop is not being used for the production of corns, but they are now fit to the animals. And that has consequently give another bad result, that now this is the use of lethal chemicals, which has enhanced. And because of that, in 1 or 2 areas, we have more cancer cases because the aquifer are polluted because of this. The crops, the fruits, since the prices are up, so the farmers do not get financial losses. But since the quality of the fruit is low, and they want to protect the crop by spraying the chemicals, that have their own, that process has its own consequences. Well, on the basis of what we did in Gilgit in the workshop, and again, my personal observation, we have formulated a few recommendations. And number one is that perhaps I'm one of the few people in that country that I have seen almost all ecosystems in Pakistan. But the most fragile ecosystem are the mountains. And then the mountain community, they are the one which are more vulnerable. But none of the policy documents say it. Accordingly, we do the mountain people, they do not get priority relief whenever there is a problem. So we think that must be part of the policy, that mountains and the mountain people, they must be declared as fragile and vulnerable. The second thing is that climate change, like the COVID-19, may not be something which may go. We have to live with it. So this is inevitable. The only thing which will work in case of this is adaptation. And for adaptation, again, we need all the research and the management institutions to really focus on that, how to find alternative to the things that are being damaged by the climate change. So that's the second, that if there is a policy on that, and all these things are related to policy, because the Higher Education Commission and the management departments have to do it jointly. Then the third thing is about the research solutions. We do have several management issues, and the managers try to resolve the management issues in their own way. But unless there are research solutions that provide basis to the solution, perhaps none of the solution will be sustainable. Accordingly, the workshop in Gilgit, they recommended that there should be close coordination between the universities and the management departments, so that none of the management decision is taken without research solution, and none of the research is taken without focusing on the management issue, which is very important in the context of Pakistan. Then fourth, we believe that the people have a treasures of indigenous knowledge. Then again, they have a rich culture. And I have yet to see a culture that doesn't contain elements which talk of the conservation, and which talk of the protection of environment, and which talk of the climate change and adaptation. But it's hardly any try to really dig out that indigenous knowledge or work on those elements in the local culture, which could be used to help the problem. And last but not the least is, again, the mountain ecosystems. They are losing their elements very rapidly because there is no proper governance. And unless we have that governance system for any ecosystem, but it's very important for the mountains, that if we have effective governance, perhaps the ecosystem will be able to maintain those elements which provide free goods and services to the people. And that's the only thing that can ensure food security in that area. Otherwise, everything will be at stake. So that's from me. Thank you very much. And but if there were questions, I will be happy to take it.
Thank you, Ashiq.